life is shit and kinda shitty, you gotta get yourself a cabinet kitty.
What's that?
It's just this like meme video that I keep seeing, and every time I see it I'm like, I'll bite. And it's just this fella coming into his kitchen, like POV style, and he opens a cabinet and there's just a cat, and then it goes meow.
I've never heard of such
I don't know what the beginning bit says, but it's something. Get yourself a cabinet kitty. I love it. Have you seen any funny videos recently?
No, I've seen some depressing videos of me trying to be funny.
Ooh, I've seen those going round as well, actually.
Yeah, I'm done with the comedy thing. I've totally checked out.
Yeah, what's next?
The only thing that I can think of for a 27-year-old man who's in the prime of his life would be, well, you know.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, but
Do
we
you
were.
think you'd ever get an OnlyFans account?
No,
No.
it's so tricky, isn't it? Because it's like, you know, for every time that we sit and say like, well, you know, like I think fundamentally, I think it's an unhealthy thing, so you can't do it.
It's
But
tough, isn't it? Like, I think there's pros and cons.
there is the flip of it being like, okay, so like if you get some creators that instead of putting their stuff on, you know, explicit pornography websites, they direct people to their own channel, and they're able to make money off it, and then they're not like having to work stacking shelves. It's like, okay, well, you could make the argument that is some way better than having to stack shelves and stuff, but I think what it would do on a moral, not moral, like on a deeper level to the person, you'd change, like everything would change.
I know what you mean. It's a tough one, isn't it? Like, it's funny that people have, and I have it as well, of this thing of like, you know, you could see someone on a YouTuber and they document everything about their life. They're documenting their work, their friends, their family. You know, they're sharing personal information, they're sharing their struggles. And it's like, everyone's like, you know, oh, hats off, because you're a millionaire now and you're a YouTuber. You've made your living from documenting your life on the internet, which is amazing. You mean
explicitly through like YouTube though,
just
like vlog?
YouTube or Instagram or something, but specifically with documenting personal, like your life. But then it's like, if someone was like, oh yeah, I do that, but like I also record myself like fingering myself and having sex, and I put that on the internet too. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh my god, like dirty, like, oh, so wrong, so like, yeah, morally, you got no dad. Everyone's like, oh, like, do you know what I mean? Everyone goes, oh, like father's zero, like.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. Everyone's
I've not seen that.
Like, you know, how to spot a fatherless woman. It's like, oh, she's on OnlyFans and stuff, and it's like, it's so weird because like sex is so natural and normal, and it's, you know, the vast majority of adults do it on their own with multiple people. But as soon as you like record it and profit from it, everyone's like, there's a big moral question mark on it.
Well, that's
really interesting.
That's interesting, because do you think that like, do you think that as a society and a culture, generally speaking, sex has become, I don't know what the best word for it would be. Do you think it's become a bit of a, through the irony of it becoming more of an open thing where you can talk about it, where people can put borderline sexually explicit content anywhere, they can have their own OnlyFans, through that openness that you'd think, oh, well, that should be a liberating thing. It's actually become more like seedy, or like more corrupt isn't the right word, but like
it's like quite Black Mirror, isn't it? It's like the intentions of something was good because it wants to, like, it's the future, and it's like, oh, we want to introduce this new idea and these new like things, but then it's like anything on the pendulum, where it can, like, once you let it go, it's like how far it's got to like swing, and then it's like, and then when it gets all the way up there, of like the most thing, it's like it's got to come back down, and then it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like, I really don't. It's one of those things. I really don't know where I stand with it. I'm constantly seeing things about why it's good, and then I'm constantly seeing things about famous women who, a lot of their work is image related about images of their face, their bodies, like paparazzi or modeling. So they're like, oh yeah, like there's people are like literally putting pictures of me on porn websites. They're getting little videos of me like walking and like my boobs are showing a bit, and that's on porn sites. So I'm like, I do that stuff anyway. I'm gonna put it on OnlyFans, and then at least I'm the one in control of what I'm putting out, and then I'm receiving the money from it. And I know OnlyFans takes a big cut, and it's not all like,
I imagine it's not as a big of a cut as, say, I don't know what the thing is with Pornhub and places like that, but I'm sure it's not the same as, like, I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I always thought in my mind it was like you can upload a video to Pornhub and it's like based on view count whether or not you get money from it.
I really don't know.
Whereas for an OnlyFans, it's like Patreon, so you say you subscribe and it's more exclusive. That's the way I always thought of it.
Interesting.
Same with like any, because it's a stream. It's basically streaming. It's porn streaming, isn't it?
Like you don't have to pay someone on YouTube to see their videos, but they get paid for their views, and then the ads.
Yeah, but that's only if they get to
revenue and stuff.
A certain threshold. It's not like the minute you become you start a YouTube account, you start making money.
But then it also it's like ultimately, I think the commodification of sex and more so women, really, the commodification of women and women's sexuality is ultimately like one of the root evils of the world. Like it's
like a,
so I'm like, oh, I could never stand by anything that promotes that, but so it's a tough one.
You know, I think about like there's a it's so 50-50, isn't it? Because on the one hand it's I feel like
I don't think it's quite 50-50 for me. I think it's more
it's like what you're saying about this pendulum thing of like sometimes you think, well, for people like us, like I think about that kind of stuff and I'm like, well, you know, the entrepreneurial spirit of it is like I can almost, I can kind of you can respect it. It's like let's say you have you've got a woman who might be like you were set up for, you had loads of you grew up in a very small town, you had very little going for you in terms of like education, whatever you want to call it, like. And then it's not your fault that there's a very seedy world out there where people, particularly men, stream porn and watch porn and, get off on that. And there's a system there which you didn't make, but
you're part of it no matter what.
Kind of. And then you say, well, hey, look, I'd rather be putting myself on there and making some decent money.
Yeah.
And sort of that elevates me financially. Obviously you talk about what that does mentally and for your integrity or whatever, that's I think diminishing. But people would feel empowered by that, and it's like, okay, I can see that, I can see that point of view. And then but the other side of it, and I think it's like, because I feel like I have a lot of an entrepreneurial, like, it's like being self-employed or whatever, you're constantly having to hustle. You've got to turn nothing into something, and then it's it's like you turn that frame of mind on, and then you go, oh yeah, like I could
just
do
another
that.
income.
I could do that. Like I could make some videos, like. But then I feel like the thing is for me is that what's been useful for me is anytime I think of something and be like, I'd love to do that. Like, I mean, maybe like in terms of, it's weird. It's like, I think of like, I have a lot of I have some self-awareness for some things. If I start enjoying something or I'm like, how good would that be? Usually it's not a good thing to do. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, if I said I want to go and get like a, is your coffee dripping?
A little bit, yeah. Does yours
Mine
start
was dripping
to go
a little
funny?
bit too, yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? It's getting all over me socks.
I think it's just maybe the paper.
Do you think?
The paper, yeah. It must seep out after a while. But it's like, so the idea of being like doing an OnlyFans, I could get into that mindset and be like, I know I could make that work. I know that if like I could particularly, it wouldn't be me, it'd be us. It's like, we could make content, blah 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 blah.
Yeah. And
then you go, I could do that. And then there's a very real part of me which is like, well, because you feel like you'd enjoy, and it's like, oh yeah, because you'd get to have sex all day, you'd get to blah 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 blah, all this stuff. You'd just be like, well, the fact that you think that you might enjoy that is proof that you shouldn't do it. Like with like the idea of being like, do you want to order a big pizza right now? And you go, oh, I'd love a big pizza because I've not had one in ages.
That's interesting that you have that perspective on it.
And then you'd eat the pizza and you'd be like, no, you shouldn't, because what that's going to do is that's going to spike your dopamine, that's going to blah, blah, blah. So that's like a short-term example.
Yeah.
A long thing might be like, oh, do you want to, like, yeah, like what do you want to do with your life? I'm going to prioritize making money because I'm good at making money and that's what the whole system is and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then you go like, well, you get a bit of money in your bank and you get a bit of money behind you. And then you go, okay, well, you know that's actually not the fulfilling thing in life. Money isn't that. You have to do something that's actually good for you.
And also, would someone say, if there was OnlyFans there, but there was no money involved, you just post your stuff, like, would you do it?
Exactly.
And it's like, no. Because in that way, the cons do outweigh the pros, definitely, because the main pro, I think, is the money element of it, of like, there's potential there to be earning money. You only really need a camera. You only really need... That's all you really need. And you don't even need... you don't even need a camera. Just use your phone. Use your phone. Have an account. You might have to pay some sort of subscription to them. A monthly thing. Or they just take cuts every month or something of what... You know, they take a percentage and stuff. So there's no outright money. So it's like... Someone said there's a business opportunity. I've got a business opportunity for you. What is it? You know, from Titanic. I'm a businessman, don't you know? I have a business opportunity for you.
Oh, yeah.
A business proposition for you.
The reason for my call today, John, is something just came in.
It's possibly the best thing that I have seen in a long time. Someone said, there's an opportunity here, right? You already have in your possession what you need. You don't need... There's no capital. There's no real obstacle stopping you from doing it. Like, just film what you're going to do anyway, and then put it online, and then you will get money. And it's like, someone will go like, oh, epic, because that's literally what YouTubers have done. They're like, I'm living this life anyway. Why not document it for others? And stuff like that. And it's like...
It's so nuanced.
It's so nuanced. It's like one of the most nuanced things, I think, that is
if
a conversation today. It's so interesting. But another thing dead quick is before, when you made a point of saying, if women are going to be sexualized anyway, why not take control and have some empowerment from it? That goes way back to like even like the witch trials. Like I've read a lot about the witch trials and stuff, and this idea that they're literally going to burn you anyway. Like it doesn't matter if you've done it.
There's a powerful metaphor in there, isn't there?
There's a really strong thing there. Like you know that the system is rigged against you right now. They are going to burn you no matter what you say or what you do. You're going to go to trial, and it's going to all seem like it's all fair and just, but no matter what, like, they will burn you, so you might as well dance with the devil. You know what I mean? You might as well do what you can and live your own life and stuff, because they're going to crucify you anyway.
But that's sort of allowing your, if you want to call it your moral compass or your integrity.
Oh yeah.
You're allowing that to be corrupted through.
Not that OnlyFans is the devil in that metaphor. I meant as in, like, if you're going to be sexualized anyway, you might as well make some money from it, basically.
I think of stuff like that all the time, because I think of like, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, what's more important? Like, say, what's more important? I'm a musician that lives on the breadline. I don't get any recognition, but throughout the course of my life, I make 20, 30 albums worth of music. I think the music's good. It never really gets appreciated. I die. A couple of people might listen to it. Blah, blah, whatever. But I'm dead. But it's the idea of you left something behind after you died.
A legacy.
And it was music. It was something you created. But you lived a life of... you didn't have money. You lived pretty by... You didn't have luxury things. You struggled. You didn't... blah, 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 blah. And then the flip side is like, okay, you became like a really good wedding singer, and you got weddings all the time. You toured regularly. You got decent money. You lived comfortably. And the third option is being like a massive superstar. Like, I don't think that's not realistic for a lot of people. But the idea of being like, oh well, I could be a really good cover band singer and do the circuits and make thousands of pounds and blah, but I leave nothing behind. What's the thing that I should go for there? Like, as someone that puts a lot of oomph in like creativeness, but also a lot of power in, I make my own living, and what's the more important thing there? And the reality is, it's like, well, you're gonna die one day.
Yeah.
Well, this is the way that I go back and forth. It's like, I'll die one day. I won't know if people are listening to my
So
whatever.
true, yeah.
The only thing I'll be thinking of on my deathbed was that, like, did I put out good things for people to listen to and blah blah blah, or did I live a life of where I wasn't struggling, where I was making good money, I allowed myself to, to travel and to see the world, and like I wasn't really caught up in my ego in terms of like, well, I'm lying on my deathbed, but I've got a couple of albums out. I don't know what the answer is to that, and I feel like that's a constant. But I feel like that goes through with the OnlyFans thing, because you could say, like you say, it's like there's a world out there where it's happening anyway. No one's going to give you a gold star for not.
Exactly. No one's going to come and thank you on your deathbed for not having an OnlyFans.
But it's whether or not you're moral into. So you sit there and say like, well,
But it's funny, the moral thing that comes up. It's even funny, even questioning why that comes into it. Like,
and why it's such a strong compass. Like why? Where does that come from?
Like what? It's like that thing of like, okay, why is this wrong? And it's like, okay, you're putting out content that sexualizes yourself for the consumption of paying men. So people go like, oh, that's not very feminist, because you should be out there doing things that, like, but even so, like, what does that mean? That's not very feminist, or that's not very like, oh, women have fought to be taken seriously and go and do jobs and join the military and vote, and then you're there like strumming yourself for money on camera. So like people go I do
that anyway, just in a different kind of strumming.
That's funny. Come and watch me strum myself tonight.
That's great. I need to write that down.
That's
I need
funny.
to it's me on a gig poster.
That's really funny.
And I'm like, come watch me strum.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know, strum.
Yeah, strum for you.
Can we make it's like what I think that was like 15 minutes in. 15 don't let me forget that. That's okay. Funny.
And someone would go like, oh, like, yeah, good legacy, or like, oh yeah, your family must be proud. And it's like, oh, I don't know. It's honestly like, I wish. It's like most things in life, though. Sometimes it's like there is no like right or wrong answer, because you could say that everyone who has a problem with OnlyFans deep down is probably just regretful of the situation. You might get women that hate it because they're like, yeah, it commodifies women's sexuality. You're basically taking money off men that are like using you as a sex object, and you're happy with that. You think that's empowering. And then people go like, men will hate it because they're like, oh, like that's so depressing. Like you're never gonna, like your kids or like your dad's gonna see it. Like, oh my God, would never go out with a woman who does OnlyFans because she's like a slut. She isn't like she's not like wifey material now. She's done this. She's like tainted. But then why is it like 90-something% of the users of OnlyFans are men? So it's like that Madonna complex thing of like, men will consume the media, but they'll also tarnish and scrutinize the woman creating it. It's like that thing of that famous thing about that woman looking into the river, of being like, she can't look at her own beauty, like she can't appreciate her own beauty, because it's like, oh, once you do that, you're tarnished, like you're not allowed to see yourself in that way, because your beauty is only allowed to be spectated by men. Do you know what I mean? But once you notice it, it's kind of gone and it's ruined. It's oh man, it's a really good. I know, it's a really good thing to talk about. Like, and you think about, like, I mean, especially with where social media is at these days. Yeah. I mean, I see some content where it's like you'll be scrolling and you'll see like a woman, and she might be like kind of, not provocatively dressed, but she's dressed in a way like revealing.
Yeah, and then there'll be like a bit of text on the screen which is, it's clearly sexually explicit, or it's something to do with like I'm very suggestive. But, so you think it's like people are using like social media now to promote that kind of stuff.
I think it's like huge that people do that. It wouldn't be an OnlyFans content creator without having it a social media influence,
and without actively being like, we're trying to promote our OnlyFans, we're trying, and there's a so that's the thing, because you realize like, okay, so it's also a very competitive It's like there's people
yeah.
that are doing it all over the place, like
Yeah, and it's like, oh well, you do this, but like, oh, I do this on camera, and that's why I'm more.
And I built up a relationship with my followers, so it's like they, you know, so she'll or they or you know they'll have followers where
Whoever
it's like,
it is.
yeah, they'll have followers where it's like, oh, they interact with them on a certain, they're putting on a bit of a show because they get to keep those followers. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's.
There's a really good podcast between. It's the Louis Theroux podcast, and he's got Belle Delphine on. You know, the bathwater OnlyFans girl.
Yeah, that was
and
mad.
that's a really interesting listen. Like, it's you know, it's like hilarious. Obviously, listening to like Louis Theroux talk to her, being like, he's like, I don't know how to ask you about what you do. Like, you know, he's obviously been around loads, and he's seen like all kinds of stuff. But he was still like, I feel like no matter what I ask you, it's kind of like, no matter what, the questions are loaded because of your job, and it's like because of like who you're known as like a public figure. And I don't want to be someone that's here just asking you to get a reaction and get a response from those who are listening to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to just actually talk about, like, I want to just hear things from you. I don't want to ask, in the nicest way, and of this being an interview, I don't want to ask you questions. Like, and I found that really interesting because he could have gone about, someone else maybe would have gone about that very differently, because she's very private. She doesn't like, even, I mean, she's very private as in like, she doesn't
do like interviews.
Doesn't do a lot of interviews. She doesn't really reveal much of her personal life online or anything, you know, and yeah, it's really interesting. I recommend anyone interested in the debate of like OnlyFans and what it means and things like that to go and have a listen, because she's really, not that it's even worth knowing on, but like she's so articulate about things and like how she took advantage of a situation that she was given. And it's kind of like, you know, because she didn't start with OnlyFans. She started with like doing like anime, what's it called, where you dress up, cosplay. Yeah, she started doing loads of anime cosplay, and then obviously kind of noticed this trend of certain outfits she'd wear would be get certain viewers and stuff like that, and certain messages she'd be getting and stuff, like, you know, you can imagine, and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it's like that thing of like, she was like, I didn't wake up and decide to do it, it just sort of evolved over time. And she was like, and then it was kind of, because, you know, her partner is really involved as well. Her partner does lots of the filming. Her partner is like the male actor that will appear in loads of her like videos and stuff.
I'd like to interview him.
Yeah,
I'd like to see what his,
so
you know, like what his, how he got into that.
Definitely.
What do you do? It's like, well,
and I
remember there was a documentary about, it was a woman who, like, you know, she would do porn. I think maybe it was a Louis Theroux thing. And the guy is like, you know, he's walking around the flat, he's like tidying up the place.
The woman who's like, she's not a porn star, she just like has sex with loads of other men, and he like encourages that.
No, I think it's like I'm sure what the thing was is that she would do like cam stuff, cam, but then she would also get fellas in, and he wasn't a part of it. A bit
older, like in her 40s, 50s.
I don't remember. But he would just sort of, and I feel like it was Louis Theroux, and then he's sort of saying like, so, you know, like, how are you feeling about this? And it's like, oh, you know, like that's just her job, you know, like she'll be in there with this guy for a bit, and I'll just be here just like doing the day to, you know, cleaning the flat. And, you know, you think to yourself, it's like, I don't know how you can make an argument for like that's like you're totally cool with that. There's got to be something going on there. Like there's loads of nuance like that where it's. I remember seeing some when I used to consume porn, which is like some, you know, it's a weird one because it's like the idea of like admitting that you watched porn for me even feels like it's a weird thing to admit, but because now I don't. And I'm sure there'll be people that will say, oh yeah, like, you know, oh, all guys watch porn, but like, I remember like I felt like I used to.
I go through his search history every night, everyone. He never watches porn. He only Googles like cute animals and then looks at my Instagram.
how to defeat Elden Ring bosses has been my recent searches, which is like, it's such a cheat.
What you think your boyfriend's looking at online all night, and like what he actually is.
But you see, that's also a good indication. I'll just like the fact that I used to watch porn and do other things with my life, like, you know, not work out, eat rubbish food, like not have healthy mind, all that stuff. The fact that at that point I probably would have lent into doing OnlyFans or something. The fact that now I'm in a totally different place and I don't consume porn, it's clear that it's like that you just shouldn't. That's a world that for someone like me, just you shouldn't ever engage in.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like I try and do that thing where it's like I visualize like what if I think of me and I'm like, what's the best version of me? And it's so stupid. It's something that looks like I'm walking around in a black suit and I've got a white shirt on, black tie. I look cool.
Yeah.
I look jacked.
So wait, black suit, black shirt.
Sorry, black shirt, white black tie.
Black suit, like
white shirt,
like
a few
black tie.
Yeah, but and
like that suit you had years and years ago that you used to wear.
Yeah. That I wore for
You look great for the Tony Lucas Talent Awards.
Less we say about that, the better. We'll talk about that another time. So it's like, yeah, I'm not jacked, but I look lean. You can see my muscles through my shirt. I'm walking around. I have like a business or whatever. I feel strong. I have you, like you're like my wife. We have some kids.
Aww.
And I think about what that guy looks like, and it's like he's confident. He knows what's the right thing to do. He knows what to do in an emergency. He's very calm with himself. There's an air of like, there's an air of peace within this person, but there's confidence. That guy would not consume porn, and he would not be involved with OnlyFans. That's a very
powerful like visualization technique.
I think so.
That,
yeah.
Okay, it's not about you want to be like this guy, so what would he do? And it's like, no. What is your
what does it look like for
like
me?
The best version of yourself? Would they do that? And it's like, probably not. And you'll know in yourself when that feels right, and that doesn't mean then that you're perfect or that you live this life of like utter, like just perfection. I try and picture like Patrick Bateman, when he's like getting ready in the morning and stuff, and it's like, yeah, like he's probably like, if he wasn't a psycho, he'd have it all figured out.
But then there's an element
but
of
deep
like,
down there's got to be
an emptiness there.
There's an emptiness, there's got to be still a human being inside there that is real, and that
is able to laugh at themselves, that's able to enjoy. But it's that thing of like you, and I've learned some of that. It's like, you don't seek. Basically, it's the idea of not seeking pleasure. What you have to do is you have to seek meaningful, difficult things which reveal something to yourself.
Interesting. Would you say that you like? Because I think like there's a part of me that I think does seek pleasure, but it's like.
For me, that is a bad thing when I seek pleasure.
Because I'm like, I see enjoying a pleasure of something. Again, it's enjoying a pleasure of something. It's not getting gratification or validation from the pleasure. It's like. So
what are your what's your pleasure? What are some pleasures that
like,
you seek though? So like think. I mean, like we go to the gym.
What you mean by seeking? Yeah.
What's something that you think of and it's like you already feel it tingling in your head, where it's like, I know that would be an instantly enjoyable.
Yeah.
That I don't really have to work for. It's just, it's something that would be instantly enjoyable.
The other week when I went and got my pistachio croissant.
So a tasty, sweet treat.
That was something that I was like, I find this experience of going to the place where it's been freshly baked that morning.
Absolutely.
I pick it up in the box. It's in a box. I sit down with the box.
And where'd you get it from, by the way?
#Lunco. If you're listening.
Amazing place.
The only place that's really worth going ever.
Lark Lane. The staff are amazing.
Yes.
Whoever, seriously, they're
an incredible local.
I try and stay away from those pastries because I try and stay away from crack.
Oh, they're all laced with crack. Yeah.
They can't not be for how tasty they are. But go on.
Yeah, I open the box. I see my perfectly formed, delicious pistachio croissant, and. I eat it, and it's a very decadent experience of eating it, enjoying the freshness of it, the taste, the texture, the sounds, the smell, and I have it, and it's not like I wait all week to have it, because I don't even go once a week. It's not like I'm waiting all day.
And you're not putting it on a pedestal.
I'm not
Can't
putting it
wait
on a
till
pedestal.
Sunday. Can't
No.
wait to go and get my croissant.
It's never that, because I don't restrict. I don't restrict myself in my diet at all, which I'm so lucky to be in that place, because
Oh yeah, 1,000,000%.
I eat really well, and but then it's like I'm at such a good place with food that I eat so well. I feel like I eat like a king every day, and I never restrict myself anything that I want. But I have just
And you look fantastic.
and I look amazing, you know. Like, but I'm just at this place where I don't restrict anything. I love all foods. All foods are good foods. It's just about decision making, balancing, like, you know, like there's no part of me right now that wants a McDonald's or wants a croissant or wants anything, because I've just had my eggs. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's also that thing of like, if
that
you
I really enjoyed though. I wasn't eating them being like, fuck's sake, this is so fucking shit.
Yeah,
like,
but
I hate this meal. Like, why am I eating this crap? It's.
But that's a great example of you having balance, and that's a
Yeah.
great thing of you being able to be like.
But it's not even. I wouldn't even say balance as in like, oh yeah, I eat stuff that I don't enjoy.
No.
Because I know
sorry.
it's healthy for me, and I know
you
that
prioritize like you. A lot of people would not. A lot of people would get up and they wouldn't think twice about what are you having for breakfast. I have like, I don't know. I'll just grab a croissant on the way to work.
Yeah.
They wouldn't think twice because that's their routine.
Yeah.
But for someone that's like, well, I get up and I prioritize, like I fast.
Yeah.
Then I have eggs, which is just totally protein. Then I fast again for another 4 hours, whatever. It's you know, and then maybe once you've done your week and you've had workouts and you've done lifts and something, if you want to go and get a croissant,
Yeah.
you can go and get a croissant and you can enjoy it. And
Yeah, I don't say to myself I can only have one once a week, or I can only have one once a fortnight.
Yeah.
I know in myself that I could have one whenever I wanted, and that's the decision making. That's like trusting your body of like, when you really want one, you will go and get one. But it just so happens that I've like, I just have this relationship with food and my body that I only ever really want one when I know it's time. Like,
you definitely have.
Is it time?
Is it time? You definitely have more of like, and I think in general, you're more of a balanced, happy, like you have, you know, like I've said this before, but like you're definitely more balanced. You are definitely more. It's hard to say it. You have a happy demeanor. You lean into the good. You see the good in people. You're realistic. You have goals, challenges. You know, you're very good at that. And like you say, you can have a croissant and it doesn't mean anything. It's like I'll have a croissant.
I'd never see it as like, oh, this is bad. Like, oh, this, you know, like.
And you might not have like a thing where it's like a relationship to perhaps dopamine or to pleasure, because maybe you've never allowed something like that to build up.
Yeah.
So for me, when I was a kid, I was really overweight.
Exactly.
So clearly,
oh my God, that's why I think I'm so lucky. Is that I appreciate that not everyone has just naturally been able to come to that. Like you, if anything, like the way that you say that, oh, I'm more balanced. It's like, no, you're more balanced because you've had to really work on like unlearning unhealthy relationships with food and with exercise and stuff, because you went from being very big, like no offense, to being like very small, no offense, and then like you've kind of had to, again, the pendulum is like
swings, it swings.
Know,
but that's what I mean. So clearly in my life, there's been more, if you want to call them demons or things that
demons.
A demon.
She's a demon.
She's a demon. Big D stand for big demon. I have to really look out for certain things because I sort of know what. Not that whole thing of like, you know, when people say about like addictive personalities and stuff, like. I've not had, like, luckily I've never had that with like alcohol or drugs, but
you've had it with food though.
I have had it with food. I say the idea of like, that's what I'm. So like for me, it's like if I go and have like a pizza or whatever after a week of eating clean, I know all that's me seeking pleasure. That's me being like, and I know what that means for me, and I know that there's no good. And a person might be able to enjoy a slice of pizza. If I start eating that pizza, I'm gonna sit there until it's all gone.
Yeah.
For what reason? And it's literally just because there's something in my. And I understand then about alcoholics when they say, you know, when someone says
I
just
can't
have
just
one
have one
drink,
drink,
and they say
yeah.
I can't, I have to keep going.
Yeah, that's sad.
And that's kind of the thing. It's, you've seen me. If I get a Domino's,
Yeah,
it's
but,
like I'll force. It's
that's
almost like I'll force it down
but,
because
yeah,
I'm like,
no,
I've
yeah,
got
you
to.
shouldn't force it down. But also, if that's your meal, there it is. Like with that pistachio croissant, I was like, there's no part of me right now that's like, oh, I should only have one bite of this. Like, I'm gonna
No,
finish the whole thing.
I know,
like,
but there's a difference of being like, I'm gonna get a very delicate, beautiful pastry that's been
Yeah.
beautifully made, handmade from a local independent shop
Yeah.
with a nice coffee at the end of the week. To me, that is a different
ya.
thing than being like, I'm gonna order a pizza with every meat,
You do go quite hard.
a chicken side, a potato wedgie
Wedges.
side, a 2 litre bottle of
Oh,
Coke.
and then the Coke as well. The Coke is a big one.
And I'll sit there for like 2 hours and just eat it. And it's like, I think if you saw that with any behaviour, drinking, anything, someone who
Yeah.
didn't go to the gym all week and then did a massive session at the end of the week, you'd be like, that's not sustainable.
That's true.
And it's
yeah.
not good.
It's interesting flipping it and being like, oh, yeah.
That exists in a few places within me, I know, which
Yeah.
is just stuff that but the flip side of that is, for me, those are all opportunities to become self-aware and to be like, well, look, I might have to be one of these people that work a little bit harder. I might not.
Yeah.
I might not be one of these guys that can just have a slice of pizza and I'm cool, and I'm just like, I can just have a beer, or I can just have this, and I can't do that, unfortunately, because I just know what that means. But
that's totally fair though, and that's really like, it's really admirable, because it's like realizing that like that is just how you function best. And that doesn't, sometimes that means sacrifice, and then that's what I mean. Like when I see like pro athletes, I'm like, holy shit, like that is an incredible level of discipline that I admire. It's in both training, physical training, mental training, your diet, the sacrifices you have to make of like maybe social life or what you want to eat, or you want to chill and it's like, no, you've got to train. I do absolutely respect it, but also I can know in myself that I don't really have that, it's not desire to be like, I don't have the desire to be a pro athlete, because I know that how I want my life to look isn't about that level of discipline and of like sacrifice. But in the same breath though, like incorporating discipline into my life is hugely important to me. Like having discipline to get up and work out, and not only work out but actually be honest with yourself and like push yourself at the gym or on the run, or doing sports and stuff.
For me, it's this thing of like the idea of like I know this is slightly off topic, but it's like waking up every day and being like, you have to face all of the things that, all of the challenges, or every day you are dealt a thing, a bunch of situations of how you're going to react, and it can be little things of like, are you really gonna, it doesn't even have to be like a cold, like I'm trying to think of okay, so like, it's a bit of a weird, this might sound like a bit weird, but like, no, that's not a good example. Like, you wake up every day and there are decisions that you make with how you talk to people, with how someone says something, how am I going to respond to that? Am I going to just go along with something and be like, or am I going to be like, or no, I don't mean call something out, but like, am I just going to be truthful to myself and be like, well, I spoke to that person exactly how I thought was the best way to speak to someone. I think what I'm trying to get at, I've not summed that up very well. Throughout your day-to-day, you'll be presented constantly with mini challenges that are like, you have to learn to constantly take the challenge, even if it's the small thing. And then the big stuff, like, well, getting up and going to the gym, that's a big challenge, but you just do it and it becomes second nature. But there are subtle things every day, like, it might even be like, like if you're someone that watches porn and consumes porn and you're a single man, you might see a woman walking down the street, and because you've watched porn and because you've maybe not got the best relationship with yourself and your integrity, you might look at that woman and instantly be objectifying her, or you might be thinking of that woman or guy, if in a sexualized way. You might be immediately be putting that on a pedestal. You might be doing that with food. I can't wait to dinner time, I want to get a Taco Bell, I don't know, something like that. And you're basically allowing all these terrible things and habits and that quest for dopamine or whatever.
Yeah.
To take over, and you're
Yeah.
compromising who you could be. You could be walking around
it's
being
becoming
like
a slave to your desires, isn't it?
that's it. That
Yeah.
I'm basically becoming a shell or a minuscule version of this person that you could be.
Yeah.
No one's gonna want to be like hang around with someone. Well, that's probably not the case because it's that's a bit no. But it's like it's
You
the
wanna-
you want to. I'd love if
conviction of like
the company you keep. If you're in a room with people and it's like it's not this thing of like, although interestingly, I took a test last night, a narcissist test.
Interesting.
Because I think that I have some slight traits of being a narcissist.
Interesting.
I'll tell you about the results in a minute.
Yeah, do tell.
But
Tell it all.
well, the idea of being, I was thinking of I have this thing where I know, again, I'm getting a bit off topic. It's becoming a bit like
It's okay.
jumble, but I've only had coffee, so. But it's like this. The idea of being like, I want to do something bigger. I want to do something better. I want to be better.
Yeah.
I want to look in the
Strive
mirror.
for that.
Yeah.
Like excellence.
I think there is an element there of being like, we've got to be quite in touch with your ego. So, and that has the potential to become out of place. So you become you could make the argument that if you keep going down that road, you'll be a narcissist of feeling like I'm better than people, or I'm better than you because I made these sacrifices.
Yeah.
Look at me. Like,
But isn't it like, again, like with pro athletes, like they have strived and committed to being the best at that sport, but obviously they might be the best in the sense of like they won the race, but also if you can always maintain that thing of like, no, I'm the best version of me, like I'm not only beating all of you suckers, but I'm also doing this like for me and for maybe the child in me that didn't think they could do it, for me last year who couldn't reach that feat, and I'm doing it for that constantly, and that can be about doing something bigger and better, but it doesn't need to be better than everyone else. It just needs to be better than you were yesterday, or doing something you thought you weren't capable of.
Well, I guess that's a thing of like, whether
or do you need like other people to be like, Mike's the best?
Well, that's an important part of it as well. Whether or not you need validation.
Yeah.
I think for me there's an element. I don't think I need people to think I'm the best. I think there's an element of being like, I think anyone that's a performer, right? I think like if you play an instrument and you do gigs, I do think anyone that says, no, I do it just for the music, I don't care if there's anyone watching, I think there's an element of not honesty there, because I think the whole idea of doing that and making something.
Agree.
But I think that
if you're a performer, you can't have performers without audiences, so the audience is like 50-50. It's like half of what you are, like you are.
Yeah.
If you're a performer with no audience, are you really a performer?
Yeah, or are you really? Yeah, it's like, would you? That's what I mean. Like, if there was no other people in the world and it was just you, but you could play the instrument. You might do it for fun, but would you do it? The idea of being like, well, I want to get out there and play, and I want to get out there and.
That's literally the book I've just finished, that I Who Have Never Known Men, because she's the last. She presumes she's the last woman alive, and she talks about that a lot, of this idea of like, she's only ever known like captivity,
right?
But now she's in the real world and she has to like come face to face with these things of like, why am I doing certain things? Because nobody is here to witness it, or like nobody might read these pages, nobody might, it's an interesting thing.
But I guess the point that I was trying to make was that like, sometimes I might think to myself like, well, if I hold myself to a high standard, which I try and do, then I'm constantly, and I shouldn't do that. It's like, well, but I don't know, should I? Like, I then will hold other people to a high standard because I'm like, well, I know what my standards are, and so I'm not gonna surround myself with people that don't reflect my values. We spoke about that before. I don't think that is a trait of being like, I'm better than you. It's a trait of like, well, I just can't be in a environment where I'm trying to be better or trying to be growing, and there are other people there that maybe aren't in that mindset.
I know what you mean.
But then anyway, I thought, I've always worried about the idea of being like, I guess more with the comedy stuff and putting videos out recently, I'm like, well, do I need that approval? Do I need people to find me funny or find me talented? I took the test. Apparently anything over, I think it was like 10 to 11 or 10 to 15 is
Of
normal.
a score.
Yeah.
Okay.
10 to 15 is normal. 15 to 18 or 15 to 20 is apparently what celebrities score high,
Interesting.
and anything over 20 is like full-blown
Wow.
narcissist.
Do you want to share what you got?
I only got 3. So that's
Wow.
like,
well, there you go.
and I did answer it honestly, but
yeah,
it
I
did,
might take it as well.
but it did say that I scored highly on thinking that I was superior to people.
Interesting.
That was part that it picked up on,
Yeah.
which is like, I don't necessarily agree to. I don't think I'm superior. I don't think there's a power element. I just think it's like, I pick up on the betterment of myself, and if other people aren't in that mindset, I do pick
Yeah.
up on that. And then it's not as if it's like, oh well, we can't be friends or we can't hang out, but it's like, are we going to have any meaningful,
Yeah, no, I know what you
are
mean.
we going to have a meaningful relationship?
I would never think of myself as being above someone, like, and that doesn't matter, like, as in, like, for example, like what job you do. If I met someone and they were like, oh, I work at Greg's, I would never think to myself, oh, I'm, without even thinking, knowing you, I'd be like, oh, I'm better than you.
No.
Because I don't work at Greg's. That, I don't know, that like thought train, and like that's for me. But it's funny because if someone's like, oh, would you ever work at Greg's, I'd be like, hell no. And that doesn't mean that I'm better than the person, but that's just because I'm not interested in that. That's not what I see myself doing. It's not that I think I'm like capable of more, but then it's like, well, I do, like, not in a, and that's where it gets tricky, because it's not that I'm saying that I'm better than the person or that I'm more capable than the person.
Or what what makes you special?
Yeah.
What makes
and
you
it's
like better?
Seriously,
for this
not
life?
like nothing. Seriously, nothing. But it's like.
Well, no, but if that's the spectrum.
Yeah.
Of, I think that I'm destined for.
Yeah.
Absolute greatness.
Or
and,
like, yeah.
And the other end is, I will die in the same bed that
I
was
do
born
feel
in,
the
or
greatness more.
I feel
or like
that
if I'm
too,
walking back from the gym of a Friday evening, or to be honest, any time of the day, anywhere, and I walk past a bunch of people outside the pub, I kind of think to myself like, wow, like I've just finished the gym. I'm like a young, strong, like healthy woman. You're there, sat outside the pub smoking with a pint. You look depressed. I don't think of this thing of like I'm better than you, but I kind of look at their face and just think like, what happened, mate? Like, just
well,
like,
I think for that older
weird.
generation, it is slightly different, because I see a lot of those people, and especially in Liverpool, and you know, it's like, you probably grew up in a time when you were just totally surrounded by it. I mean, so were we.
But that's me. So were we again. Like we weren't special in that sense that we grew up like.
We didn't have like influences
with artists,
like,
or like, you know, we didn't grow up like in Brooklyn doing like cool shit.
No,
we, you know,
but
I just
it's always trying to come to the thing though of being like, well, look, it's easy to judge, and it's easy to be like, like you're some pisshead that's outside the pub.
I try and not do that thing where I judge. I just think to myself, wow, I am so happy and like proud of myself and confident in myself that this is my life, that I like will go to the gym and then walk past. I'll go to the one gym on that street in that area and walk past the 20 pubs home. Literally, it's probably about 20 pubs that you go past on the way home from the gym, no matter what route you take.
It probably is, isn't it?
We should count it tomorrow.
Lot,
I'd be very interested to see. On the way there and on the way back, I bet it's 20 pubs.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm like, yeah, I love where I'm at. I love where I'm headed, because this is what I'm doing. This is like my path. And I'm not saying that it's better than all of you that are sat outside the pub, but I just feel like, I don't know, do you leave a place that you feel like, well, I've just spent 30-40 quid there on a few rounds of drinks for everyone. I'm feeling intoxicated. I've poisoned myself. I've probably said some shit that I'll regret. I've probably done some shit that I'll regret. And I'm going to do the same thing again tomorrow. And it's like, how do you not feel bad about doing that? And how do you not feel amazing leaving the gym where you've just done something healthy for your body and doesn't healthy for your mind?
Well, but you know, it's not their fault. I mean, I think that, I mean,
I know. That probably sounds like I am walking past everyone being like, oh, I'm so much better.
I think it's because I think it, you know, from when you walk past pubs where we are, and it's like it's not like, oh, a quaint little English pub on the corner. I wonder if they're serving
with
fish and chips.
people like cheersing and being like, oh, to all of us being here on this day, how
and
merry.
There's laughter, and the music that you hear sounds like some lovely folk music, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, lovely. Oh, yeah, that looks
and
like,
people are joining in, and people are celebrating. Like, there's a great history of people coming together for merriment in pubs, and that's amazing. But it's really not like that.
A depravity which looks so sad, to the point where you wanna be like, I just, like, either let me do something to help, or get me away from this, because this is so different than what we're used to, but or where we are. But I think though that exists, and it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like, you might start you might start your journey of going to the pub when you're 17 or whatever with your mates, and you start drinking. It's fun. It lowers your inhibitions. You get off with people. You start taking drugs. It's fun. You know, your stories, the crack. You know, that you're dated, that you can't do that on the weekdays because you got a job.
Yeah.
And that's not your fault either. And then the weekend comes, and you just fall into that thing. But you see that with people that are like, let's look at gamers, right? And streamers. When we were kids, you turned on the PlayStation or your game, and it'd be like, that's for you. That's you and the game, and you're having the time of your life because you're a little kid, and that's the way how you get something out of it. Then what happens? People start streaming. People turn it into this big thing, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that enterprise, but then it changes in a sense, and it's like the idea of you. It's not the idea. It's like the idea of almost like corrupting yourself for some reason, and it's like the idea of
corrupted monk
Sekiro. It's that idea of being like, well, I'm not shitting on people that play video games for a living, but it's the idea of being like, are you, and this goes for a lot of things that are similar to, like, in that same with OnlyFans or whatever it is. Are you totally 100% fulfilling your absolute best as a person? Are you getting everything you possibly can out of life?
Yeah. Through
turning something that you enjoyed like that into this big, and I mean those kind of streamers that you see that it's like this huge extreme thing where now and they have like like championships, and it's all sponsors, and it's all like let's fucking go, bro, and they're slamming things down, and they're wearing sponsored shirts. It's that, to me, I'm looking at that and I'm like, that has become this toxic.
But would you say the same
like,
for pro athletes who are running, who are going like, let's go,
well, you'd have to,
like, let's go, we're a team, and like,
it's
like, is that really, you are just, you wake, you train, you eat, you train, you eat, you compete,
you'd have to ask,
you win
for
or
the
you
reasons.
lose, and are you really fulfilled with that? It's like, it could be anything.
You'd have to ask those people what it is, why they think that they're doing it. You know, if they think that it was like, I grew up and my parents pushed me relentlessly, and now I've got this in my head that I've got to do that thing. I've got to take it to
otherwise
the
I'm a
extreme.
failure.
You could say, well, that's great because they're demonstrating this, but I think it's like, if they sat back and they were like, I do it because I love it. And I genuinely love it, and I did it when I had no money, and I still go out and run or play tennis on the days that I'm not competing. And if you were a streamer or a gamer that was like, I play a lot of the time just for me, like, it's just for me, and it's not about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I'm making through ad revenue or whatever, I'd be like, okay, well, that's if you're being honest with yourself, kudos. But it's that thing of being like, something's turns when I think it's like, you can make money from this, or like, you can do something more than this. Or
but then haven't they won though, if they've turned the thing they love into their income source? Isn't that ultimate, like,
I think it depends.
It's like that ikigai thing. It's like the circles of like something you're good at, something the world needs, something you can make money from, and something that makes you feel fulfilled, because you can be good at something that doesn't make you feel fulfilled, and you can feel fulfilled doing something that you're bad at.
True.
And it's like right in the middle of all of those, what's it called when all the circles like overlap?
It's a Venn diagram. And then finding in the middle, and it's like, okay, that's what you should always be in pursuit of. Maybe that's what I've said there comes across as being a bit like Puritan. Is that the right word? the idea of like, oh, you should only do anything if it's purely the thing that you love.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to shit on
Yeah, no, I
gamers
get
or
you
anything.
now.
I think that it's what we were talking the other week about, influencing. It's the idea of being like, you might start something because you're like, I really love this. I really enjoy it. I'm going to take that leap to do it.
Yeah.
And then very quickly it's like, okay, we've seen that you've got a following.
Yeah.
So we're going to throw a load of shit on top of that.
Yeah.
To, like, ads, wear this t-shirt,
Yeah.
have that in the corner, stream like this.
It's
like
Taylor's oldest time, isn't it?
Yeah, you change your personality to suit the temperament or the scene, as it were.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden it's like you've
really lost
what was special there. And maybe that goes the same with sex, and coming back to the OnlyFans thing. It's like you start a relationship with someone, you have that sex, and that intimacy, which is a sacred thing between the two of you. You build up that thing, and it becomes special, and then you say, hey, like, well, we're going to be doing it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to be video gaming anyway.
Let's put it out there for money.
Let's put it out there for money. Then all of a sudden, you might start getting popular, and then all of a sudden, what began as a camera in the corner of the room then is like, right, well, now we need to get someone in to film the close-ups.
Yeah.
And now you know what's
and
really
obviously
good?
with OnlyFans as well, the content naturally gets more and more
explicit as you go on.
Because like
that's
you've
what
got to
people
keep
want,
up with the
you've gotta
demand. Yeah, you've got to keep it fresh. You've got to keep it. Oh,
You've got to
you've
become.
seen they've done this.
It's a notorious thing, isn't it? It's like
notoriety.
Speedrunners that are playing blindfolded.
Yeah.
How is that a thing? Like, how is that? On the one hand, you go, well, that's just an incredible feat of human potential. But then on the other hand, it's like, are we going too far here? Like, are we taking this? Because what about little Timmy who's 8 who wants to? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it?
Should we call her there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
That was a really good chat. I don't even think we said hello to anyone, but
we just got straight in, didn't we?
We just got straight in, but I quite like that though, because we didn't decide what we were going to do this podcast on. We just started talking, and sometimes that's some of our best conversations. It's just when it flows.
I think so. I'd love to just do like I'd love to do this just every day. This would be great, like just talking every day. And
I do love I love talking with you, and I love the idea of someone listening to something that either one of us have said and going like, oh my god, yeah, like I know what they mean, or like, oh, I agree.
I like that. I like the idea as well of being like,
I've never heard someone put it like that.
Yeah,
that makes me really happy.
I like that. Or some of the stuff that I might like the fact that, you know, if I say like, oh well, I used to consume porn, I used to be this kind of guy that did that. On one hand, it's quite a revealing thing to be talking about, but I do like that idea of being like, well, there might be someone listening being like, well, you know, they might be kidding themselves thinking that there are certain things that they can get away with. I can get away with watching porn, I can get away with drinking, I can get away with taking,
like, okay, he doesn't watch porn because he's this type of person, but that would just never be me. And it's really hard to be honest with yourself about things and think, well, like, hang on, like, have I ever questioned why I do this, or have I ever questioned why?
Well, it's brutal, and a lot of the time you won't like the answer, and you won't like having to admit. And
then the alternative of being like, right, well, I guess I'm gonna try and not have that part of my life now, and that goes for anything, but yeah, thanks so much for listening to us. And,
as always. We hope you have a lovely week. And,
have a lovely rest of your day.
And just keep growing.
Keep growing. Keep listening. Keep
challenging yourself.
Yeah.
Keep trying to force yourself to be like, is this what? Maybe try that visualization thing that I try and do sometimes. Try and be like, what's the best? This insane version of yourself that you can picture. What would they do in a situation?
How would they deal with this? Like, would they do this? And then if the answer's no, it's like, well, you could do it anyway, but just know that that's kind of one step in the other direction of the person that you want to be. And you can't always be on the straight path, straight and narrow all the way up. There's always going to be side steps and back steps and stuff.
But you can always be moving in that direction.
Yeah,
doesn't
with
mean
anything.
You can take, I don't know. There's probably a really good metaphor that you could come up with there. But anyway, we need to think of a thing that we're going to do as well.
Yeah, we'll figure that out now.
In the next 10 seconds.
All right.
So we'll say
everyone.
bye, everyone.
See you next time. Bye.
Boom, boom.